and you had really tough times in Canada as a child of immigrant mom.
A brutal civil war that really devastated the country and lasted for 10 years. Just going from bomb shelters to bomb shelters, trying to survive with my family. There was bombs going on and on and on everywhere around us. That's when, me, my mom, we went to Canada, and then we were trying to survive there.
How does that experience shaped you who you are today?
I escaped, and I didn't die that day because of a reason.
How do you select the companies and decide that this is a great company to invest?
It's funny because a lot of people think that the success of a company is your product. What is your distribution channel and what is your secret sauce? So that's one thing.
What are the most three key factors that you pay attention when founders pitch to you?
Those three factors, if it's impressive, then I'm probably going to invest in them. So that investor kind of build trust that way with them.
Information they need to know to start as an angel investor.
And then the second thing for angel investing is that angel investing is very risky. If you are in climate tech, don't go and invest in healthcare if you don't have that experience. I love that.
So feel free to ask your question.
So what motivates you to keep going, right? Because I know you said that it's hard running a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. It's hard running an event organization platform.
Hi, my name is Aytakin. I am welcoming you from Verso Talk with Aytakin podcast. The aim of this show is to tell the stories of immigrant investors and founders raising millions of dollars to inspire and educate the community of immigrant leaders. Today is our guest is Mariane Bekker. She is a femigrant from Lebanon. But from Lebanon, she immigrated to Canada, and from Canada, she immigrated to California, Silicon Valley. Mariam, I am very excited to have you at our podcast. So please introduce yourself. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. A little bit about me. I've been leading engineering teams here in the Bay Area for the last 15 years. And 2 years ago, I started my own agency to help companies hire more women engineers to really diversify tech. And then I found myself being a founder. It was also a very similar situation than when I was an engineer, where I would find myself being the only woman in the room. So I started my own community of women founders, Women Founders Bay. And then throughout this journey, I founded a bigger community called Founders Bay, which is 32,000 founders and VCs here in the Bay Area. And we do a lot of events, workshop, and provide resources for founders to really help them succeed.
Awesome. We will talk a bit about the investment a bit later, but I would love to learn about your personal story. I know that you escaped war and you had really tough times in Canada as a child of immigrant mom. You were separated with your father because he couldn't escape the country. Please tell us your story.
Yeah, definitely. So I was born in a little country called Lebanon. There's maybe $1 million there, but where I was born, it was a brutal civil war that really devastated the country and lasted for 10 years. I spent my childhood just going from bomb shelters to bomb shelters, trying to survive with my family. And even though I was really little, I still remember everything. I remember being in the hospital room many times because there was bombs everywhere. There was a lot of pollution in the air. So I would always get pneumonia. So I would spend sometimes weeks at the hospital. And I remember being at the hospital one day, and what they did, one of the tactics of war, is that they used to bomb power plants, and they used to bomb hospitals. And there was a power plant right next to my hospital. And I heard that on the news, and I remember I don't remember exactly how old I was, but maybe I was 4 or 5. But I remember hearing on the news, and now they are bombing the power plant, and the power plant was next to me. And I knew at that time, I thought that that's it, my life was ending. And my parents weren't here because they were with my family somewhere else. And I thought to myself, like, this is it, this is life. I'm grateful at least my family wasn't there. And that has been my childhood story. Is every day was I never took a day for granted, but I always knew that today could be my last day.
That's a very touching story. So thank you for sharing that. And sorry for taking you back to those memories. I know it's hard to share, especially when you experience your childhood with memories. It's hard to go back.
It is hard.
So let's go to your Canada life. So, and maybe do you mind to tell how you were able to escape the war to go to Canada?
Yeah, definitely. So one night we were in an apartment building, and then we started hearing the helicopters that were throwing the bombs, like coming closer and closer together, and they were approaching us fairly quickly. So we went downstairs with the neighbors, and then we started praying, and then the whole night it was like an apocalyptic movie. There was bombs going on and on and on everywhere around us. And my mom at that time, she thought that that's it, that's the last night together. So we started hugging the neighbors and everybody saying our goodbyes. And then there was actually a bomb that did go into our building, but it went like maybe 2 meters away from us. So that night, after that night, my mom actually took us to the Canadian embassy, and she told them that she refused to leave until they give us visas, because what was her alternative? She knew that if we didn't leave, then that's it. We would be done. We escaped death so many times in the past. So then we made our way to Canada, but unfortunately my dad could not get a visa on time. So we had to leave my dad behind. And then that's when, me, my mom, we went to Canada, and then we were trying to survive there in a new country. And I can talk a lot about.
Yeah, please tell me. And I know some part of your story is that you were trying to help mom with also like financial situation. Please tell me about that.
Yeah, so I was very young at that time, so I couldn't really help her with the financial situation. But when we immigrated to Canada, we went in a neighborhood that was called like the Arabic Ghetto, where a lot of the moms and were there with their kids. And because at that time, the mom would leave first, a lot of the moms were single moms. And in the Arabic culture back then, it wasn't very common for women to work. So a lot of those women could not provide for their families. So actually, it was a very poor neighborhood. And I remember like the school that I used to go to, because the kids were so poor they wouldn't get breakfast, they implemented a program to give us breakfast at school. And I remember we were living in an apartment with maybe like 5 or 6 other people, really just trying to survive. And even though what is crazy about me is a lot of people think, these like the immigrants who immigrated, maybe they're not like as educated or they're not as productive. But then if you talk to every single family, the dad or the family was either a doctor or an engineer in their country. My dad was the dean at the American University
all high-skilled immigrants, right?
It was very high-skilled immigrant, but when you're in war, right, and then especially when you leave war, you can't take your wealth with you, right, because it's gone. Everything is destroyed and you have to start from scratch. So I've really seen firsthand how it is, or to be in a place where even though you have the skill set, even though you were educated, you did everything right, you still can't provide for your family. And that is it's very heartbreaking to see and grow up with.
How does that experience shaped you who you are today?
I think that experience made me who I am today, right? This is the reason why I'm there. I saw so many moms and so many women not able to provide for their family and struggling because they didn't have the education or they had to depend on their husband. And since I was 7, I remember being with those women, being with the children of those women. And I realized that in order for us to prevent something like that to happen again, we need to have women be empowered. We need to make sure that they're educated. We need to make sure that they're empowered to really grow their career, and they're empowered to do that and be a mom at the same time. So ever since I was 7, I've been reading about women's rights, especially women's rights in Arabic countries. And I knew that the purpose that I'm here on earth is really to help women succeed, help women around me, because I know how life can be fickle, and I know that I escaped and I didn't die that day because of a reason. And a big reason is that so that I could really empower all the women around me, and especially women who are women of colors and women immigrants.
How do you impact lives now with Founders Bay?
Yeah, so Women Founders Bay, we are on a mission to make tech more diverse. So right now, even though women start over 50% of all businesses in the US, they start 35% of all the tech companies, yet they still receive less than 2% of the funding.
Yeah.
And the reason why that is so bad is because we need money to grow our companies. We need capital. And if we don't have the money to grow our businesses, then there's not that many women founders who reach like Series B, Series C, Series D. And then as a result, a lot of the executive at big companies are not women, right? And women are getting left behind. So at Founders Bay, what I started doing is when I started my company, and this is another story also I wanted to share, is like I was married for a very long time. I didn't go out at that time. I was just working with my family, and I got divorced 3 years ago, and I did not have a network. I started from scratch, literally from scratch. I didn't even have like clothes to have on. I had to even get a new wardrobe. So like 2 years ago, or 2 years ago, maybe a year into it, I decided that I wanted to have a network, that I wanted to be in the startup community. And then I remember I got accepted to one event. That's it. All the other one I got rejected in. And I walked in and there wasn't that many women in the room. And then the more I got into that circle, the more I realized that the startup circle, the VC circle, is a very close-knit circle.
Yeah.
If you don't know about the parties, if you don't know about the events, then you're getting left behind.
Yeah.
And a lot of women were getting left behind that way. So then I started something very simple, which is I started recording, and then I started sending out a newsletter of all the events happening in the Bay Area for founder and VCs.
Yeah.
And I started sharing that with the women. And now this newsletter grew to over 32,000 founders
Amazing.
and VC. So every week now, women do show up at events. Like if you go to tech events, there are actually women there. And all of my events, particularly, so I host events probably like 2 or 3 times a week, I make sure that at least 50%, sometimes it's 100% of the
great.
panelists are women. So really the way that I'm helping is that I'm giving access to those women, to the VC, to the founder community. I'm giving them a voice because we need more women's voices out there to really represent us and to inspire other women also to follow the lead. Because I share my story, I share how, I really struggled to get back on my feet after my divorce. I really struggled to reinvent myself. And I think what I didn't realize is that a lot of women are divorced out there and they're trying to rebuild their life, but they're not speaking because there's stigma against it. But those women are coming to me and they're like, well, I'm not scared anymore, right? I don't feel like there's a stigma anymore. I'm okay talking about it. And you inspired me to keep going. And that for me is more important than anything else.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So, Mariane, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
What do you mean in reverse?
Like, choose any 3 keywords that represents you.
I would say kind. That's one of the value that I try to really hold on to. Ambitious. I don't want to just change Silicon Valley. I want to change the world, and especially the empower women in the Arabic countries. And I would say the third, just goofy. I love to live life, and I love to laugh, and I love to just enjoy life and be with my friends and be with my kids and just
and
have
you
a
have
good
a great
time.
energy.
Thank you
I
so
love your
much.
energy. You are very positive, especially knowing that you are coming from such a challenging experience as a child, since childhood, but now you keep your positive attitude, positive energy. This is incredible.
Thank you so much, Aytakin. I'm
Of course.
inspired by women like you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Also came.
So let's talk about investment. As a general partner at Founders Bay, I believe you already started to invest into companies, right? Probably mostly women, right? And how do you select the companies and decide that this is a great company to invest? And at what stages do you invest?
Yeah, so it's definitely at the pre-seed stage. Currently, the way that I evaluate a company, it's funny because a lot of people think that the success of a company is your product, right? It's okay, if my product is unique or if my product is a little bit better, I'm going to be successful. But nowadays, the most important thing for a startup, it's the distribution channel, is not your ability to create great products, because especially now with AI, especially with the productivity that it gives us in terms of coding, anybody can create a product. It's your ability to distribute that product. Do you have a big social media network? Do you have a big network of executives that you can sell into? What is your distribution channel and what is your secret sauce? So that's one thing. The other thing, and that for me is a non-negotiable, is that does the person have a fire in them, right? Are they ambitious? Because as a founder, you're going to go through highs and you're going to go through lows and you're going to go through tough times. But do you have this hustle factor in you where you're like, okay, no matter what, I'm going to figure it out. And if this product that I build does not work, I'm going to pivot to something else. And that fire, that cannot be replaced. And that's really the hallmark of a great entrepreneur and a great company.
How long have you been investing?
So I've been investing for a few years now. I've done angel investing almost like my entire career.
Do you remember the first company you invested? What was it about?
I think, well, I did a lot of investment also at bigger companies in my past life. And one of the companies that I invested in, it was a company that basically started renting out cars to people, which in the past didn't exist. So instead of you going to a dealership and you get a car, you can like rent cars anywhere on the street. And that company, turned out it was Zipcar.
Oh, wow.
And that was, I believe, the first company I invested in.
Oh, wow.
A very long time ago. I've been in the Valley for 13 years and then it got acquired.
Wow.
So I always remember that. So now anytime I see Zipcar, I'm like,
oh
wow,
my God,
memories.
Yeah. So when do you listen to pitches? What are the most 3 key factors that you pay attention when founders pitch to you?
I look at their story. Are they, and not because of the story itself, but as a founder, you need to be able, again, for your distribution, to sell your story, to sell what you're building. Do they have a compelling story? Who are the team? Well, who is on the team? Do they have a competitive advantage? And the third thing is like, what does their traction look like? Are they just starting out? Did they close letter of intent? Do they have a big newsletter? And those 3 factors, if it's impressive, then I'm probably going to invest in them.
For any founder, immigrants who want to pitch, what mistakes they should avoid? Maybe top 3 mistakes.
Yeah, I would say the first one, a lot of startup founders, when they pitch, what they do is that they focus on a lot of the facts, right? Like they're like, okay, we are building a plant-based food, or we are building a diagnostic tool for cancer. Instead of focusing on what you're building, focus on your story. Why are you building the things that you're building? Because investors, at the end of the day, they are people, and people relate to stories way better than facts. So I would say make a compelling story about why you're doing that. And the other thing that I would focus on is to also build your personal brand. Like I see a lot of immigrants that maybe just immigrated a year ago, and then you go and look on their LinkedIn, and sometimes it's not even in English. Or sometimes they still have their home country as the location. And then when you Google them, everything around that country. So I would say, like, instead of, you have to showcase that you're in the US, you're here, that you are here to stick in it. So to stick with it. So go on your LinkedIn, update your personal branding, make sure that when people Google your name, there's good SEO that is surrounding you, so that investor kind of build trust that way with them.
So for anybody who just starts, they might not have the budget. So Google assumes they're all about money, right?
Yes.
So with minimum budget, how they can do at least to get some visibility besides LinkedIn?
So it's all free. All these things are free. So one, optimize your LinkedIn profile, right? If you are having some difficulty with English, and by the way, English is my third language, so I get it. Use ChatGPT. You have the biggest tool at your surrounding. Then I would say just Google somebody who you look up to, like a founder in your industry. Google their name and see where they pop up. There's a lot of website where you can put your profile for free, like there's Crunchbase, I believe there's PitchBook, even Yelp. Put your company name there. Just Google a competitor or Google somebody you like or you look up to and see where their profile put up, and put your profile there, and then Google will start indexing it, and all of that is free.
Now we are in our 1 minute break. Femigrants is a global community of diverse female immigrants. At Femigrants, we connect immigrants to the business and career growth resources. Femigrants offers different types of events, helping immigrants to connect with the most successful and influential immigrant leaders of the Bay Area. These events include, but are not limited to, fireside chats, coffee meetups, different types of brunches, dinner events with immigrant investors and executives, annual forums, summits, and many different types of events where we invite successful immigrant leaders to join as speakers, and many different community members connect with them to learn from them, get inspired, and also support each other. At Femigrants, we also organize different types of trainings for newcomers, for small business owners, and startup founders, helping them to take their business ideas and career to the next level to become successful immigrant leaders in America. If you're an immigrant, no matter how long you have been here, either you have just arrived or you have been living here for many years, we have different resources for you to get the benefit, to enjoy, to get inspired, to feel supported, welcomed, to give and get support. So don't delay your success. Join Femigrants community to become a successful immigrant leader and empower your immigrant peers. To join Femigrants community, please go to femigrants.com, and I hope to see you at one of the Femigrants events in Silicon Valley very soon. So back to the studio. Mariane, when you hear the pitches or when you meet founders, what is the red flag for you? You get to try to, no, this is not the right person to invest.
I think when I give them feedback and they react poorly to that feedback, and they start defending the feedback, that's a big red flag. If instead they say, okay, well, thank you for your feedback, I'm going to think about it, then I know that this founder is open to giving feedback. So that's one thing.
Have you had that experience when you saw them taking it personal?
Yeah, I've had that all the time, where they're like, oh, no, this is why you're wrong, this is not the case, or I don't like what you're saying. Especially like as a woman in tech, I think you're always not taken as seriously as you could be. So I've seen that happen, and that's a huge red flag for me.
And from your personal experience as an immigrant woman, right, being in the industry, by mostly male-dominated industry, how was your experience? Did you need often to prove yourself that you should be in that room, or were you given opportunities to be in the room of investors?
So I've always had to prove myself in tech. I studied software engineering in college, and I remember at McGill, maybe 13 years ago, I believe. And I remember my first day walking into that math class, I looked around me and I realized there's not even one woman in that room in math class. And then I started going up the stairs to the rest of the building. And in the entire engineering building, I was the only woman. And that has been my experience for the next 4 years. The engineering engineers themselves, they were great. I never felt like an outsider. It was a little bit hard for me because I could not relate to the hobbies that they have. Like I was just a teen. I wanted to read Cosmo and I wanted to talk about fashion and Gossip Girl, and then they wanted to talk about like gaming and
cars, etc. Right?
So that I felt like I couldn't relate as much, but they never made me feel out of place. But some of the professors did. For example, I went to one of my professor who was teaching math to ask him a question in his office hours, and he told me, well, women are not good at math. They don't belong in math. What are you doing in engineering? And then when I moved to the Bay Area, it's not that I necessarily did not get the opportunities, because I remember when I wanted my first internship, what I did is I printed my CV and I went from door to door and I gave my CV to all those companies, and I was able to get my internship that way. But I've had times in my career where, for example, one man that I was working with, he started being very aggressive towards me. And I couldn't understand what was going on. And when I went to tell my manager, he would tell me, well, it's good that there's conflict in a team. But I told him, well, it made me feel really uncomfortable. And I wasn't taken seriously because of that. And then later on, I remember when I left, because it was such a toxic culture, the person who was doing that to me told me that they did that because they had feelings for me. And when I told my manager about that, he went then and we went to talk to my coworkers and said that, oh, it's because she was wearing nice earrings at work. Like, if she didn't want that, why did she do that? So these are instances where, because I'm a woman, I experience these things that men probably would not experience. But regardless of that, I had so many amazing mentors who were men, so many men who promoted me, who pushed for my career. But always when you're technical, especially, there's so many studies out there that show, like, when a woman walks in the room, she's already rated 2 or 3 points lower than a man, because she's assumed that she's not technical. So I always had to prove, like, hey, I am as technical as you. I have the technical chops. And even most recently, a year ago, I was actually hosting an AI conference. I was literally the host of the AI conference, and I was on stage introducing all the speakers, every single, for more than 4 hours. And then when I went for lunch, I started talking about how ChatGPT really helps with coding, and now we can be 10x more productive in coding. And then a guy who was sitting next to me, who knew my history, he turned to another guy and he's like, oh, look at her. She's not even technical, and now she can code because of ChatGPT.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, well, why do you assume I'm not technical? I'm literally hosting the AI. I was an engineer. And then he's like, well, if you're technical, give me one language that you know how to write code in. And the other guy was looking at him like he had a valid point. And I'm like, well, I probably started writing code before anybody else I know, right? So these are like small moments of like microaggression that women experience that they shouldn't experience that. But
does it happen in investment world too?
I think in the VC world, it's a little bit different, where I think now there's a big push to really help promote and fund women. I don't think I'm taken less seriously because I'm a woman, and that's because I have a huge huge social media presence. But I definitely hear from women's story that, they would go pitch, and maybe during the pitches they wouldn't be taken as seriously, or they would pitch, and then instead of getting asked questions that are like, how are you going to become the next $1 billion company, they get asked question like, how are you going to make sure that you're not bankrupt? So these are small like unconscious bias that happens here and there for women. But hopefully, we really are changing things. We are changing things by having this community like Immigrants who are bringing the voices to these women, right? And my hope is that, in the next year, when a woman goes into a room, she is assumed to be technical, and that she is assumed that she's going to be the next unicorn. And it starts with people like you giving the voices to women online and offline. Yeah,
thank you for mentioning about Femigrants. How many Femigrants personally pitched to you, and how many did you decide to invest
Yeah, I would say almost 9 out of 10 women who pitch to me are immigrants, right? And that's what I absolutely love about the Bay Area, is that they are amazing women from all over the world coming here on a dream.
Yeah.
And those women are incredible because, like, to make it here, to leave your country, to leave your loved one behind, especially if you're not extremely wealthy, takes so much courage. And then on top of that, maybe their English is their second language or their third language, and they are so inspiring to see, and they have the hustle factor just because they came here from nothing. They literally had to leave their family behind. That shows me that they are hustlers. Like, they need that. In terms of investing, I haven't invested that many in the last year because I've been so focused on really building the community. And now my vision is, instead of, we definitely we need to give women more money, but what I want to focus on is that I'd like to create an ecosystem where all the women have the opportunity to succeed, where they have a group where they can come to and they can grow their startups. Because now startups, they fail with 98%, like 98% of startups fail. But what if we create an ecosystem with Founders Bay, with Women Founders Bay, where that failure rate is much, much lower. And I think once we reach that, that's when I'd actually like to really hone into investing in the women community.
Now let's talk more about money, investment. So if any immigrant woman watches us to learn about investment, what important information they need to know to start as an angel investor?
Yeah, definitely. I would say even before starting as an angel investor, I highly recommend that the woman goes to work at a startup so that she maybe learns, especially as an immigrant, how startups are run here, what makes a startup successful. So I would say either start to become an advisor at a startup, even if it's just like a volunteering advisor, or try to volunteer at a role at a startup so that you understand how the ecosystem works. And then the second thing for angel investing is that angel investing is very risky. When I angel invest, I'm assuming that I'm throwing that money away. Because your risks, they're not de-risked. So for every 40 investment, maybe one will be the right one. So when you angel invest, and if you want to make sure that you're successful, you have to angel invest in 40 companies. And that's basically, that takes a lot of money. So it's out of reach for a lot of people to do that. So I would say, like, first of all, just understand that there's so much risk in angel investing. The second thing is that you have to have access to deal flow. And that means that you got to have a network of startups and founders startup founders that are around you, that you can go and that you can meet. So I highly recommend, you learn about all the events that are happening. You can go to like newsletter.foundersbay.com to subscribe to my newsletter, and then identify maybe 1 or 2 events a week and start getting your name in the ecosystem to try to find those founders. And the third thing is that angel invest in something that you know really well of. If you are in healthcare, don't go and invest in climate tech. If you are in climate tech, don't go and invest in healthcare if you don't have that experience. So really find what your competitive advantage is. What do you know more than most people know? And that's going to give you a good leverage to find the right company to de-risk your investment.
Would you mind to tell about the types of investments to educate women?
So there's a few way of investing. So one, there's angel investing, where you probably put anywhere from 5 to 20K of your own money in a startup. You get equity for that startup. The second one is actually you can invest in VC firms. So there are VC firms out there that you can become an LP, a limited partner in. You need to give them money. Typically, it's anywhere between like $100,000 to millions of dollars, depending on the minimum check size. But that de-risks your investment because now the VC is responsible to really go and find the companies and de-risk that money. The third thing is to join an angel syndicate. And an angel syndicate is basically a group of angels that come together, and then the angel syndicate itself finds the startup for you that then you can put your money in. That's the third way. And then the fourth way is just investing in the public market. Actually, if you do not have a high tolerance for risk, investing in the public market is way, way less risky than investing in startups. So don't only think that in order to be an investor, you have to invest in startup. You can start investing in the general.
Let's talk about public investment more.
Yep, definitely.
To help immigrant women. Some companies, corporations, they offer opportunities to invest in public companies. Please tell me more about, so they should know, because companies just tell them, but they don't educate.
Yeah, definitely. I can tell you how I started. So the majority of my investments are in public companies. So literally all you have to do is create like a brokerage account. You can go to Schwab, you can go to Fidelity, you can go to Robinhood, and then identify what you know most of. So what I knew the most of is about technology because I was an engineer. So I started looking at tech companies. I invested in Amazon when they were small, in Zipcar. I invested in Google. I knew that these companies, because I understood the technology, I knew that they were going to be great investment. So figure out like, what do you know most of? If you were a doctor in your country, right? Or if you are if you're a doctor here, then go look at big healthcare companies because you can read their financial statement and you can understand it. And then a few websites that would help you get started. There's a website called fool.com that really talks about the best practices of investing in public companies. And then look at Warren Buffett. He wrote multiple books about investing in it. And I think that's how I started. I just read those books. I went to fool.com and I learned more about it that way.
Nice. Have you ever made a mistake in the investment world, like investing wrong?
Yeah, definitely. I think the mistake was that I thought that one of the companies that I invested in, I thought that they were going to grow, but they shrunk. So instead of selling at the right moment, I waited too long, and I still carry that portfolio company. I think that I was too optimistic for it, but because I invested in the public market and because I invest more in like the S&P, my risks are de-risked. Like I never really lost money or I never lost all of my money in an investment, which that happens if you invest in startups.
So for somebody who just watches us and not familiar with all these keywords, can you please clarify for them the S&P? What does it mean?
That's just basically the regular stock market. You can invest in something called index funds, and index fund themselves, it's called index funds, and the index fund is basically a conglomerate of investment that someone else manage, and then that conglomerate could be, okay, well, we're investing in small companies, in medium companies, international companies, and it's very de-risked, but they usually like grow over time in kind of very risk-free way. So again, once you create your brokerage account, you can go and look for index fund, you can go and look for particular companies, but I would highly recommend to like start building your portfolio that way.
So that's very informative. I am sure that our subscribers will learn a lot from this podcast. What do you know now that you didn't know before? You wish you knew it would help you a lot. Yeah,
I think that the biggest thing that now I know more of is that you have to sometimes take the hard decision to leave a situation that you're comfortable in, especially if you find someone that is not treating you right or someone that is not recognizing your worth. And a lot of time us women, we are taught that, you got to make it right. You got to be kinder. You got to stick through it because you know what, like this is on you. You don't give up. Like, don't give up.
Yeah.
But sometimes giving up is the best thing for you. So I wish that somebody told me that staying in toxic relationships, staying in toxic partnership, whether it's work, whether it's friendship, whether it's personal, whether it's romantic, it doesn't matter what it is. People will drain your energy if you're with the wrong people. So sometimes it's okay to step away from a bad situation, and it's better to be alone than being with a person who does not treat you right.
You know, recently I saw a post on LinkedIn. The guy wrote a situation about a toxic workplace.
Exactly.
And then he was telling that I stayed at this workplace and then I succeeded. And I wrote a comment that why do people have to survive toxic workplace?
Exactly.
They can just leave. And then his response was to me that as a leader now, if my employee would say that I will leave a toxic workplace, I wouldn't keep that person in a company. And I was like, is it an army that we have to serve to stay in a toxic workplace? I wouldn't get your coaching services. He's teaching how to stay in a toxic workplace as a coach.
Wow.
And he tried to convince me that if I am leaving toxic workplace, I am not a good employee. I am not a good leader. So that was such a wrong message.
It's a wrong message.
Teaching people you have to survive in a toxic workplace. So I'm so glad that you brought this up. It's not only about workplace, it's also can happen in personal relationship, right? Yeah. We don't have to be survival.
Exactly.
And then later say that I am a winner because I could stay in a toxic workplace.
Exactly. You don't need to survive anything. If you are at a point in your life where you're only surviving at work, or a boss or a coworker is draining your energy, or you're in a friendship where that person is not treating you right, or you're in a romantic relationship and you feel that you always have to give more than you are receiving, I want to tell you that you don't need to go through that. You have a light in you, you have a strength in you that will carry you through whatever hard decision that you're going to make. And at the end of the tunnel, when you're out of the toxic situation, you're really going to soar higher, because at the end of the day, toxic situation, all that they do is that they drain your energy, and that energy you can put it towards good. You can put it to have a life that you are enjoying. So don't stick with the wrong person. Don't stick with the wrong workplace.
Thank you. That's a great motivation to any woman who is experiencing situations at workplace or in personal life. Do you have any advice to immigrant women who just started their startup?
Yeah, I would say go and build your network. Number one, start going to events, start going to Femigrant events, start going to Founders Bay events,
right?
Exactly. Come to any event and build your network like that. And then when you meet people, don't always think about, okay, what can this person provide me? Think the opposite. What can I provide that person? Be curious about that person, because they have a story too, and hear their story, and you're going to create friendships, and you're going to create like long-lasting relationships. The second one, and this is for all women out there, I don't know if you know, Aytakin, but 80% of tech influencers are men.
Of course, I know.
You know that, right? Why is that? Why aren't more women voices out there? And that's what I appreciate about you, is that you are big on social, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're putting your message out there, and you're inspiring tons of women. So even if you're building your startup, if you have an audience, it's going to be easier to find investors, and it's going to be easier to find clients. So even if you are intimidated about social media, you have a few choices. LinkedIn, if you like writing, you have Twitter, if you like short writing, Instagram, if you like pictures, TikTok, if you like videos. Find something that you love doing and start posting maybe like a few times a week. I started, I think a year and a half ago, I had 2,000 followers, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to start writing, even though English is my third language. I studied French in writing. I didn't even know how to write in English. But now we have AI to help you with that writing. And then I started doing content online every week and every 2 weeks. And then I started my newsletter. And then suddenly now I have like more than 50,000 followers across all the channels. So everybody starts with one follower.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. So don't be intimidated. Go on social media and be loud on social media.
Yeah.
We need your voices to be heard, and we need the world to hear that, women are doing amazing things at the end of the day too. And we are founders. We are engineers. We are as technical as all the men around us.
Awesome. Perfect. As a podcast format, you can ask me one question.
I love that.
So feel free to ask your question.
So, my question to you is, what motivates you to keep going, right? Because I know you said that it's hard running a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. It's hard running an event organization platform. What is your motivation?
I will tell you a similar story. We are running out of time, but I will mention that when I do events, especially when I try to involve executive level immigrant women, starting from searching, finding them, it's much more harder, number one, to find immigrant women in executive roles. Number two, to convince them that they have to go public to speak and to share their stories. When I reach out to immigrant men, right away they say yes. No additional questions. They check the website, they get most important information, and they're like, yes, I will be there, either to support Femmigrants or to bring visibility to their impact. But when I go to women, they hesitate so much. They ask the questions, taking longer time to get back, make decision. I am like, it's a great opportunity. Come to the stage, talk about the impact you make. You have to bring visibility because you were able as an immigrant woman to start from mid-level. Now you are like head, VP, EVP, but you never talk about it.
Yeah, why not?
You are such an educated, knowledgeable person. You have to go public. So it takes me efforts to convince immigrant women to be publicly visible. So what keeps me motivated to keep going? As similar to you, I aim to have more immigrant women to be visible, to share their stories, to publish the impacts that they make to the world. So that's my goal. That's what keeps me motivated to keep going.
I love that. You want basically women voices, especially immigrant women voices, to be heard and to be represented.
Yes.
And to inspire others as well.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that about you.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
I am so happy we had you in our studio today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.